In the vast, silent canvas of history, there are moments when the very fabric of human endeavor shifts, redefined not by the roar of cannons alone, but by the quiet whisper of innovation. Our story begins in one such pivotal moment, under the searing sun and endless horizons of the Arabian Desert, in the year 1991. It was a time when two titans of steel, born from vastly different philosophies, were about to collide, forever altering the future of warfare and revealing a profound truth about the power of foresight and adaptability. Imagine, if you will, the desert itself. A place of deceptive beauty, where distances stretch into infinity, and the heat shimmers with mirages. Here, the stage was set for an encounter that would pit brute force against sophisticated intelligence, and an old way of thinking against a radical new vision. On one side stood the T-72, a formidable main battle tank, the pride of Soviet engineering, produced in vast numbers and considered a global benchmark for armored might. Its crews, seasoned and confident, had been trained in a doctrine that emphasized speed, aggression, and overwhelming numbers. They believed their T-72s, with their robust construction and powerful guns, were virtually invulnerable. Whispers of a new American tank, the M1 Abrams, had reached their ears, but these were largely dismissed as Western propaganda, exaggerated tales meant to sow doubt. They had faced countless simulations, drilled endlessly, and their conviction in their machines and methods was absolute. For them, the battlefield was a chessboard where the moves were known, and their pieces were the strongest. They envisioned engagements at medium ranges, between 1,000 and 1,800 meters, where their tanks were designed to excel, where they could close with the enemy and unleash their fury. Little did they know, however, that the desert, with its immense open spaces, was about to become an unforgiving crucible for their deeply held beliefs. They had overlooked a crucial element, the vast, unobstructed lines of sight that stretched for miles, a factor that would amplify the capabilities of their unseen adversary beyond anything they could comprehend. On the other side, a new philosophy of armored warfare had taken root, embodied in the M1 Abrams. It wasn't just a tank, it was a revolution forged from cutting-edge technology and a radical reimagining of what a main battle tank could be. The Abrams was cloaked in advanced composite armor, a layered defense that offered unprecedented protection. But its true genius lay in its eyes and its mind. Imagine a tank that could see through the darkness and the dust, that could lock onto a target with pinpoint accuracy from distances previously thought impossible. The Abrams was equipped with state-of-the-art computerized fire control systems, thermal imaging that could pierce the veil of night or smoke, and laser rangefinders that instantly calculated precise distances. These weren't mere upgrades, they were game-changers. They allowed the Abrams to engage targets accurately from nearly 3,000 meters, almost double the maximum effective range the T-72 crews were trained to expect. This technological leap meant that the Abrams could strike with devastating precision long before its opponent even knew it was there, long before the T-72's own systems could even register a threat. The stage was now set for a confrontation unlike any before. The confident crews of the T-72, secure in their tried-and-true doctrine, were preparing for a battle they believed they understood. They were ready for a clash of steel, a brutal, close-quarters dance of death. But the M1 Abrams and its crews were ready for something entirely different. They were prepared to fight a battle of information, of foresight, and of overwhelming technological superiority, a battle that would be decided by an invisible hand, long before the enemy could even raise a fist. The desert awaited, and with it, a revelation that would forever change the meaning of armored might. The world was about to witness not just a battle, but an evolution. The desert awaited, and with it, a revelation that would forever change the meaning of armored might. The world was about to witness not just a battle, but an evolution. Yet, as the sands shifted under the weight of impending conflict, there was a stark contrast in preparation and mindset. The crews of the Soviet-designed T-72 tanks, formidable machines in their own right, entered the fray with a deep-seated confidence, almost bordering on overconfidence. Their training, their doctrine, had been honed over decades, emphasizing speed, brute force, and medium-range engagements, a lethal dance within 1,000 to 1,800 meters. They had been taught that their tanks were robust, reliable, and more than capable of handling anything the West could throw at them. Whispers of the M1 Abrams, with its seemingly fantastical capabilities, were often dismissed as mere Western propaganda, an exaggerated myth spun to intimidate. They believed their steel behemoths were, for all intents and purposes, invulnerable. Their world was one of direct confrontation, of seeing the enemy and engaging them head-on. They were ready for a fight they believed they already knew how to win. But the battlefield of Operation Desert Storm in 1991 would prove to be an unforgiving crucible, melting away old certainties and forging new realities. It was here, amidst the vast, featureless expanses of the desert, that the M1 Abrams truly unveiled its silent, devastating prowess. The very conditions that the Soviet doctrine had overlooked, the long, unobstructed lines of sight, became the Abrams' greatest stage. Imagine the scene: an Abrams, a silent hunter, positioned kilometers away. Its advanced thermal imaging system cut through the cool desert night, illuminating the T-72s as clear, glowing silhouettes against the darkness. A laser rangefinder instantly calculated the precise distance, and the computerized fire control system, with breathtaking speed, adjusted the gun. A single shot, an almost imperceptible flash in the distance, and then a devastating impact. From the perspective of the T-72 crews, the experience was nothing short of terrifying. They would suddenly find their tanks erupting in flames, their comrades vanishing in explosions, without ever seeing an enemy, without ever hearing the telltale roar of an approaching tank. The M1 Abrams wasn't just engaging them, it was destroying them from distances so vast, nearly 3,000 meters, that the T-72's own optical systems couldn't even register a target. Their medium-range focus, once a point of pride, became a fatal blind spot. They were fighting an invisible enemy, a ghost that struck with surgical precision from beyond their horizon. This technological disparity created a maelstrom of confusion and fear. How do you counter an adversary you cannot see? How do you defend against a threat you cannot even detect? The T-72 crews, trained for close-quarters combat, found themselves in a nightmare scenario where their senses and their systems were utterly overwhelmed. They were virtually blind, especially as night fell, when the Abrams' superior thermal imaging truly shone. While the Abrams crews navigated and targeted with clarity, the T-72s were reduced to fumbling in the dark, their night vision systems primitive by comparison, often rendering them helpless. The battles that unfolded were not the clash of titans envisioned by old doctrines. They were asymmetrical engagements, where the M1 Abrams, armed with its superior sensors, computational power, and long-range precision, demonstrated a new form of armored might. It was a stark, brutal lesson that the age of brute force alone was over. The desert sands bore witness to a fundamental shift, where information and foresight became as potent as armor and firepower. The world watched, stunned, as the very definition of armored warfare was rewritten, not by a single heroic charge, but by the cold, calculated precision of technology. The echoes of those engagements would soon ripple across the globe, forcing every nation to confront a new reality, a new standard, and a new understanding of what it truly meant to command the battlefield. The evolution was undeniable, and its implications would reshape armies for generations to come. The ground beneath the T-72s, once a familiar stage for their calculated maneuvers, became a shifting canvas of dread. The crews, once so confident in their machines, found themselves trapped in a terrifying paradox. They were in the most heavily armored vehicles on the battlefield, yet they felt utterly vulnerable, hunted by an unseen predator. The initial confusion curdled into raw, primal fear. Imagine the terror, the sudden, concussive impact of a round they never saw fired, the explosion that ripped through their tank, followed by the terrifying silence of absolute darkness, or the frantic, desperate scramble to escape a burning metal coffin. Their radios crackled not with tactical updates, but with increasingly desperate reports of tanks exploding without warning, of comrades vanishing into fiery plumes. They strained their eyes, peering through their limited optics, searching for muzzle flashes, for the telltale dust cloud of a moving tank, for anything that would betray their enemy's position. But there was nothing. Only the vast, empty expanse of the desert, stretching deceptively into the horizon, holding its secrets tight. The M1 Abrams was not just engaging them, it was erasing them from the battlefield, a silent, deadly phantom. This technological chasm widened into an abyss when the sun dipped below the horizon. For the T-72 crews, nightfall brought an almost complete sensory deprivation. Their older, passive night vision systems were akin to looking through a grainy, monochrome filter, barely distinguishing shapes, often completely obscured by dust or smoke. They were, quite literally, fumbling in the dark, their world shrinking to the confines of their immediate surroundings, their fear amplified by the unknown. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every distant sound a harbinger of doom. But for the M1 Abrams, night was merely another layer of tactical advantage. Its advanced thermal imaging systems cut through the darkness, through dust, through smoke, presenting a clear, almost cinematic view of the battlefield. Enemy tanks, even those camouflaged or hull down, glowed like beacons against the cool desert night. The Abrams crews, with their laser rangefinders precisely measuring distances and their computerized fire control systems instantly calculating trajectories, could engage targets with devastating accuracy, often before the T-72 crews even realized they were being observed. It was like a hunter with night vision goggles stalking prey that was blindfolded. The disparity wasn't just significant, it was absolute. This wasn't just a battle, it was a revelation. It wasn't about who had the bigger gun or the thicker armor anymore. It was about who could see further, think faster, and strike with more precision. The core tenets of armored warfare, honed over decades, were being rewritten in the sands of the Persian Gulf. Brute force, once the ultimate arbiter, was superseded by sensors, by computational power, by the ability to gather and process information at lightning speed, and to translate that information into decisive, long-range action. The M1 Abrams wasn't just a tank, it was a mobile data center, a precision instrument of war that rendered older doctrines tragically obsolete. The world watched, stunned. Military strategists and defense ministers across the globe, who had for so long invested in and believed in similar Soviet-style doctrines, were forced into a painful, urgent reevaluation. The images and reports coming out of Desert Storm were not just about a military victory, they were a profound philosophical challenge. They spoke to the relentless march of innovation, the unforgiving nature of progress, and the absolute necessity of adaptation. This wasn't merely a shift in tank design, it was a seismic tremor that would ripple through every aspect of military planning, training, and procurement for generations to come, heralding an era where the unseen became as powerful as the seen, and knowledge became the ultimate weapon. This seismic tremor wasn't just an abstract concept for military planners, it was a brutal, terrifying reality for those caught in the storm. Imagine, if you will, the T-72 crews, sitting in their formidable machines, products of a doctrine that had dominated the Cold War landscape for decades. They had been told, and they believed with an almost religious fervor, that their tanks were the pinnacle of armored might. Western propaganda, they had been assured, exaggerated the capabilities of tanks like the M1 Abrams. The T-72s were robust, fast, and armed with a powerful 125mm gun. They were bred for the vast plains of Europe, for swift, decisive, medium-range engagements, where their sheer numbers and aggressive tactics were supposed to overwhelm any foe. Overconfidence, born from years of unchallenged doctrine and state-sponsored narrative, had become a dangerous blindfold. Then came the desert. And with it, a confrontation that shattered every preconceived notion. The T-72 crews found themselves in a nightmare that defied all their training, all their beliefs. Picture the scene, an Abrams tank, nearly 3 kilometers away, a mere speck on the horizon, or perhaps entirely hidden by the undulating dunes. Its crew, calm and collected, peered through the crystal-clear thermal optics, their screens painting the distant T-72 as a stark, glowing silhouette against the cool desert backdrop. The laser rangefinder instantaneously locked onto the target, feeding precise data to the fire control computer, which, in turn, calculated the perfect trajectory. AM-829 APFSDS round, a dart of depleted uranium, was already on its way, traveling at blistering speed. For the T-72 crew, there was no warning. No muzzle flash to pinpoint, no incoming projectile visible to the naked eye. One moment, they were scanning their limited field of view, perhaps discussing their next move, and the next, a catastrophic explosion ripped through their tank. A flash, a roar, and then nothing but fire and smoke. It was a terrifying, incomprehensible assault. They were being hit, destroyed, by an invisible enemy they couldn't locate, couldn't engage, couldn't even see. This wasn't just a tactical disadvantage, it was a psychological weapon of immense power. Confusion quickly escalated into fear, and fear into panic. How do you fight an enemy that operates beyond your sensory limits? How do you counter a threat that strikes from distances you were never trained to even consider? The Soviet doctrine, built on the premise of closing distances and engaging within 1,000 to 1,800 meters, was rendered utterly irrelevant. The Abrams simply operated in an entirely different dimension of combat, engaging from nearly twice that range, often while stationary and hull down, presenting minimal target profile. The night battles were even more chilling, a stark testament to the Abrams' absolute dominance. While the M1's thermal imaging systems transformed the pitch-black desert into a tactical advantage, the T-72s were left virtually blind. Their older, less capable night vision equipment struggled to pierce the darkness, reducing their world to murky, green-tinged outlines, if anything at all. Imagine being a T-72 crew member, hearing the distant rumble of unseen tracks, the faint whisper of a turbine, knowing that somewhere out there, an unseen hunter was stalking you, capable of striking with impunity, while your own vision offered little more than a void. The desert became a vast, terrifying trap. The stories from the survivors, from the captured T-72 crews, painted a harrowing picture of utter bewilderment and despair. They spoke of tanks exploding around them, of comrades vanishing in fireballs, without ever having fired a shot in return, without ever having identified the source of the attack. Their overconfidence had been brutally shattered, replaced by a profound sense of helplessness. This wasn't just a defeat, it was an intellectual and technological humiliation on a scale rarely witnessed in modern warfare. It was a stark reminder that belief alone, without the backing of innovation and adaptability, is a fragile shield against the relentless march of progress. The battlefield had evolved, and those who refused to evolve with it paid the ultimate price. The implications of this profound shift were just beginning to sink in, not just for the defeated, but for every nation that watched and learned. The psychological toll on the T-72 crews was catastrophic. It wasn't merely a defeat in battle, it was a complete shattering of their reality, a profound betrayal of everything they had been taught and believed. Their tanks, once symbols of Soviet might, were now mere coffins, their crews targets in a game they couldn't even perceive, let alone play. The fear was palpable, a cold, creeping dread born from the unseen, the unexplainable. Imagine the terror, a sudden flash, a deafening explosion, and a comrade's tank erupting into a funeral pyre, yet no enemy visible through your limited optics. No muzzle flash to pinpoint, no distant silhouette to aim at. Just the chilling, undeniable evidence of an invisible, omnipotent foe. This wasn't war as they knew it. It was a haunting, one-sided slaughter, a technological ambush that left them not just outmaneuvered, but utterly bewildered and disoriented. This profound technological disparity, so vividly demonstrated in the sands of the desert, didn't just win a battle, it redefined armored warfare itself. It was a seismic shift, pulling the rug out from under decades of established military doctrine. The old paradigm, which celebrated brute force, sheer numbers, and the relentless advance of heavy armor, was instantaneously rendered obsolete. The M1 Abrams, with its composite armor, its computerized fire control systems, its thermal imaging, and its laser rangefinders, wasn't just a better tank, it was a smarter tank. It heralded an era where sensors, computational power, and long-range precision became the new arbiters of victory. It taught the world that the ability to see first, understand first, and strike first, from distances previously thought impossible, was the ultimate advantage. This wasn't about who had the biggest gun or the thickest steel, it was about who possessed the superior intellect, both in the machine and in the minds that designed and operated it. The global implications were immediate and far-reaching. Nations worldwide, from aspiring military powers to established giants, watched Operation Desert Storm with bated breath, then with stunned realization. The images of burning T-72s, often untouched by return fire, were a stark, undeniable lesson. Military strategists, defense ministries, and tank manufacturers across the globe were forced into an urgent, often uncomfortable, reevaluation. Every aspect of tank design, crew training, and procurement strategies came under intense scrutiny. Suddenly, the focus shifted dramatically. Armor thickness alone was no longer enough. It needed to be smart armor, capable of defeating advanced projectiles. The old, simple optical sights were deemed primitive. Advanced thermal imagers and sophisticated fire control systems became mandatory. Training exercises that once emphasized medium-range engagements now had to simulate battles at extreme distances, demanding new levels of precision and situational awareness from crews. Procurement budgets, once perhaps spread thin across various conventional assets, now had to prioritize cutting-edge technology, investing heavily in research and development to bridge the widening gap. This wasn't just about catching up to the M1 Abrams, it was about understanding the fundamental shift it represented. It was a wake-up call, inspiring a new wave of innovation and modernization across the international defense landscape. Nations recognized that their own security, their ability to protect their interests, now hinged on their capacity to embrace and integrate these advanced technologies. The battle in the desert, therefore, became a powerful catalyst for progress, driving a global rethink of military doctrine and investment. It underscored a timeless truth that the human spirit, when confronted with a challenge, responds not with surrender, but with ingenuity and an unyielding drive to adapt, to learn, and to overcome. The lessons learned from the M1 Abrams' decisive victory continue to resonate, shaping the future of armored warfare and reminding us that evolution is not just a biological imperative, but a strategic necessity. The world had seen the future of battle, and there was no turning back. The world had seen the future of battle, and there was no turning back. That stark realization wasn't merely a tactical assessment, it was a profound philosophical shift that reverberated through every military academy, every defense contractor's boardroom, and every nation's strategic planning. The era of brute force, of simply building thicker armor and bigger guns, had been irrevocably replaced by an age where information, precision, and the ability to see the unseen became the ultimate arbiters of victory. The M1 Abrams, in its decisive performance, had painted a vivid, undeniable picture of this new reality. Its composite armor, a marvel of engineering, wasn't just tough, it was intelligent, designed to defeat specific threats. Its computerized fire control, thermal imaging, and laser rangefinders weren't just enhancements, they were the very foundation of its overwhelming long-range accuracy. It was a testament to foresight, to investing in the unseen advantages that would manifest spectacularly on the battlefield. The lessons learned by the T-72 crews, bewildered and terrified by an enemy they could not perceive, resonated deeply. The invisible enemy concept became a haunting benchmark, forcing every nation to ask, could our forces see the threat? Could they respond? This global reevaluation was not a choice, it was an imperative. Nations that had once prided themselves on their own formidable tank fleets suddenly saw them through a new, critical lens. Old doctrines, which emphasized massed formations and medium-range engagements, were discarded like relics. Training protocols were overhauled, demanding crews master complex digital systems, understand thermal signatures, and engage targets with pinpoint accuracy from distances previously thought impossible. The focus shifted from mere marksmanship to system mastery, from optical observation to sensor fusion. Research and development budgets soared, channeling resources into advanced optics, active protection systems, and networked battlefield management. The goal was clear: to replicate, and ideally surpass, the M1 Abrams' technological superiority. This wasn't about blind imitation, it was about internalizing the core principles of its success, the fusion of protection, mobility, and devastatingly precise long-range firepower, all enabled by superior information processing. The impact stretched far beyond the realm of armored vehicles. The Abrams victory underscored a universal truth applicable to all fields of endeavor, that true strength lies not just in raw power, but in adaptability, innovation, and the courage to challenge established norms. It taught us that complacency is a silent killer, and that underestimating the pace of progress, or dismissing new ideas as propaganda, comes at a profound cost. The legacy of Operation Desert Storm's armored clashes continues to shape military doctrine today. Every modern tank, from the German Leopard 2 to the British Challenger 2 and beyond, bears the imprint of the M1 Abrams revolutionary design philosophy. They are platforms bristling with sensors, networked communications, and precision engagement capabilities, all striving to achieve that critical first strike advantage. But perhaps the most enduring lesson is one of the human spirit. The evolution of armored warfare is not just a story of steel and silicon, it's a story of human ingenuity, of relentless pursuit of advantage, and of the unwavering drive to protect and prevail. It reminds us that progress is an ongoing journey, demanding constant learning, adaptation, and the courage to look beyond what is, to imagine what could be. The M1 Abrams didn't just win a battle, it inspired a revolution, forever changing how we perceive power, precision, and the future of conflict. And in doing so, it offers a timeless motivational message that the pursuit of excellence, the commitment to innovation, and the willingness to embrace change are the true keys to overcoming any challenge, visible or invisible. The roar of its turbine engine and the silent, deadly precision of its long-range shots echo as a powerful testament to human potential, urging us all to constantly evolve, to see further, and to always strive for the cutting edge.